Hello and welcome to the Books Crypto Club weekly catch-up on Zoom. It's Sunday, the 27th of June, 2021, and we like to talk about all things crypto, blockchain, DeFi, NFTs, whatever is of interest to people who come along. If you enjoy this, as I always say on YouTube, do click on the subscribe button, click that like, smash the notifiers, that kind of thing. We never really know what we're going to be talking about. It's open to whatever people who come along want to discuss, and the group is open to novices, to experts, to traders, to whoever. So I hope you enjoy this. Let's see who's going to join us today.
Hi Gary, how you doing?
Hey, good afternoon, Fazal. How's it going?
How are you? I'm all right, not too bad.
I'm good. I'm still trying to keep pace with this frantic, crazy world of crypto.
Yeah.
And we've got a few others joining us today, which is good to see. Georgina, I see you coming in there. And we've got Steve. Steve, say hello.
Hi, I've remembered to unmute this time.
Good man. And in those last 30 seconds of muting and muting, you've probably made a load of money on Ethereum.
No, not a good week.
Not a good week. It's been a good week for shorting things, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's not something I do.
Yeah, I think some people are into that, and some people just like going for the upward markets. I kind of think that's good.
Yeah, with shorting's too risky because if it goes back up, you're buggered. But when it goes down, it's always going to go back up eventually. So I'm safe in the long run.
Yeah, so we'll see where it leads. I think that's the fascinating thing about this space, that there's so many options available about what you can do. You can either keep it simple and just trade on the uplines, or some people like to play the shorts and this kind of thing, or go for some of the futures. We'll see what others have got to say today. So I see we've got a few new faces here. We've got Sheikh has joined us. Hey there, Sheikh.
Hello. How are you doing?
Hey, we're good, thank you. Whereabouts are you, Sheikh?
I'm based out of Abu Dhabi.
Okay. So how are things in the Emirates?
Yes, here there is a big hype about the crypto, and especially NFT. People are so excited. A lot of excitements are here.
Yeah, there's some big launches of NFTs at the AI blockchain conference in Dubai a couple of weeks ago, I believe. Did you hear any of those?
Yes, yeah, there are a few. Yes, absolutely. And I'm also launching my robotic crypto in the coming month. So look forward for that.
What's that, robo algorithm you mean, for like buying and selling?
No, it's a humanoid, and so we are bringing robots on NFT platform, so you can own a robot using the cryptocurrency.
Okay.
So it's called Next Protocol.
Okay. And do you have a white paper that we can take a look at, or show the details?
Yes.
Huh?
Yes. You can visit nextprotocol.tech, and all the details are there.
That's great. So for anyone watching or watching the recording, it's a recommendation of something to go take a look at straight away. That's great. Thanks for sharing that. And Georgina, good evening to you.
Hey, good evening.
And have you still been keeping your head down in crypto land, or away from crypto land?
Yes. I mean, I'm still watching the news, and I'm fascinated by what's happening with China and how different people are responding. But as far as watching the markets, I feel a bit like Steve. It's like there's no point in shorting anything because it could actually ricochet back up again.
You can get stuck
and if it keeps if it keeps going down, it's like we're in it for the long term. I'm just intrigued by the developments in El Salvador, the fact that the president of El Salvador is doing a $30 airdrop to every single adult citizen in the country, which I think is absolutely awesome. And yeah, that may cost, I think they worked out something like 100 million to do that. But, bottom line is if those people hang on to that, if they can get that done fairly soon and they can hang on to that Bitcoin, they've got a nice little bonus. Thank you very much.
Yep. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
I think as Willie said, that it's going to increase the number. If every citizen takes it up, it'll increase the number of users of Bitcoin up by 2.5%, which is not, it's not a small number. I mean, it sounds like a small number because it's 2.5%, but you know, in one fell swoop, that's quite a, you know, that's quite a significant change.
Yeah, but
so it's things like that I'm watching.
Yeah, it's interesting you're talking percentages though, because I saw a report the other day that said something like 90% of all of Bitcoin's value is held in 2% of the wallets. So the whole thing about a few whales having massive amounts seems to tie in with that. So the more wallets we can get out, the more people we can get using that. That's really good. It's got to be a supportive thing. Yeah. I noticed we've got someone else joining us today. It says JPB Bray. So whoever that may be, do you want to come off mute and say hi?
Yeah, hi there.
And you could even say who you are.
Yeah, I'm Jonathan Parker Bray, CEO of PrivateX and Private Secure Communications.
Oh, cool. Okay. And what brings you along today?
Well, I just saw your invite, Gary, and I just thought, oh, it's Sunday evening, it's pretty damp and not very nice outside, and whilst I'm just sort of relaxing, I'll just sort of sit in and have a listen.
Excellent. It's good. Well, I'll say this for anyone who's not been on this session before. These talks, we just talk about whatever. There's no particular agenda. We cover whatever anyone else wants to get interested in. So you've got something you'd like to bring along to share. That's great, as long as it doesn't go into a sales pitch. If there are questions you have, we get novices who want to learn about stuff. That's great. We just open it right up, really. So that's great. So thanks for coming along. And I see we've got Matt join us as well. Matt Keane. Hey there.
Oh yeah.
How's it going, Matt?
All right, first time in. It'd be interesting to see what it's all about.
Excellent. Well, it's totally random, these sessions. We never really know what we're going to end up covering or anything. But anything in particular brought you along today? Anything you'd like to talk about?
Not in particular. No, it's a big learning curve, isn't it? So I'm just all for info at the moment.
Yeah, and that's why originally when I set the group up originally, it was all about learning and sharing and building up knowledge and that kind of thing. So yeah, that's really good. Well, thanks for coming along.
Well, thank you for letting me in.
Hey, no problem. And we've got the famous Fernando joining us as well. He's just connecting at the moment. We'll see what he's got to say, because I think he was at the blockchain conference in Dubai the other week.
So Gary?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I wanted to just talk about this whole, which I think is quite important, the whole FCA thing. You must have seen. I think it's got a lot of people worried. I just wanted to get your thoughts on the whole Binance operations. I think this was posted today. It's on the FCA website. Yeah. There's been a few mentions. So I just wanted to kind of understand, because I've been getting a few calls from friends saying, oh, what do I do? Do I kind of move some of the assets I've got into wallets? Or, I mean, how is it going to, or are there, some people are saying they're going to ban the derivative parts of it, not exactly the other part. So yep. Just wanted kind of clarification in terms of, you know, how should we, you know, what should our strategy be going forward?
So I can offer a view on what the announcement was about, yeah, and people need to figure out their own strategy from there, kind of thing. But certainly, I posted something on LinkedIn earlier on today about it, because the FCA announcement, it was actually published on Friday, but I don't think anyone noticed it initially, and I think it probably posted Friday evening or something.
Plus, this came about as well off the back of the news. I think in Birmingham they raided someone's machine and found some illegal activity going on. I mean, they didn't necessarily link it with Binance, but this whole thing is kind of snowballed.
Yeah, so there's multiple things going on all the time. So the Binance specifically thing, for those who don't know, yeah, the FCA put a notice out on their website on Friday to say that they've advised Binance Markets, which is one of the Binance group, to not promote or actively get involved in anything with regulated activities for which they are not registered. So that was quite a clever move by the FCA, because it doesn't mean the FCA's banned them from doing anything. all the FCA's done is they fired a warning shot over them to say, do not do anything that you are not registered for, and please put this up on your website.
But they've given them this deadline, right, till the 30th at the end of this month. Yeah.
Yeah,
so
which is 3 days away. So it's a pretty tight deadline. But all it is, it's to say, do not do anything illegal, which is what they shouldn't be doing anyway. Now, what the FCA have not said is that you can't operate as a cryptocurrency exchange. All they've said is do not do anything. Do not do anything that you are not allowed to do. What they haven't done is they haven't said what they are allowed to do. So you're right that this is where it gets a little bit murky.
Yeah.
Cryptocurrencies are not regulated instruments. Okay, so the buying and selling of cryptocurrencies is not regulated by the FCA. Therefore, Binance as an exchange is not doing anything breaking the rules. Okay, so there's nothing new there. However, the FCA did introduce a new regulation in January that anyone dealing in crypto assets and particularly crypto derivatives, so if you've got things like an exchange traded fund, which is made up of multiple cryptos or anything like that, that is a regulated activity that is not permitted in the UK for consumers.
So because Binance is a derivative platform as well, I guess that's the problem.
That's right. So it may well be that Binance may not be able to offer certain things, but not necessarily that the whole thing. And this is what's been really interesting. Everyone's read the FCA announcement and has said FCA bans Binance.
Yeah, it bans. Yeah.
It's like no, they haven't. They've simply said don't do anything that you're not allowed to do. But they haven't said what they are allowed to do.
But what's interesting is there's a website, binance.co.uk, and if you go to that, it says coming soon. So I've just got this feeling that either they're going to just move the UK users to this site and say, right, you can only use this site now. So a bit like they have in the US, they can't use Binance.com. I think they've got a VPN in or something.
So what they did a while ago is that they tried a thing for a while out of Jersey, where there was Binance Jersey, which they ceased with at the end of the year, I think it was. But Binance, you can never work out which country they're in anyway.
Yeah.
Because it is kind of a global type thing. But I would say just keep an eye out. I think Binance is intending to make an announcement, but this all seems to come at short notice. But I think certainly it's preventing Binance from offering crypto derivatives to UK customers, but not necessarily to prevent them from being an exchange still. But I'd welcome other people's views. You know, Hussein, I see you've just joined us. You've probably got some first-hand knowledge around the Binance thing and regulation with the FCA, having been with Ziglu. What's your thinking on this?
Yeah, watch everyone. Some new faces as well. It's great to see so many people here. Samuel, I recognize you from the UK Crypto Group. My understanding of the situation is, as a crypto asset business, you need to obtain registration through a licensing process, mostly for 5MLD, which is a European Union directive on anti-money laundering. Now, how much that's being enforced is, I think, the question, right? Because we had 91 companies register for this when the deadline was set by the FCA at the tail end of 2020, and 50 of them drop out of that process, which is, I think it's around 50, which is quite crazy, right? And I would expect that's because of how long and torturous the process would be to get the license. And any internal kind of legal team would advise the executive to just drop out of the process and go to another jurisdiction. And we had a number of organizations actually on LinkedIn when we were discussing this, but representatives or employees say, yeah, we just didn't bother, we dropped out, went to the Dutch Virgin Islands, went to wherever to get the necessary kind of legal cover that our compliance or legal teams said we would need. So it's as clear as mud, as far as I can see.
Yeah, I think it's the story's going to unfold because there's several parts at play at the moment. So you've got the requirement to register under the crypto asset regulations, as Hussein says, which the approval process for that has been delayed because it was meant to be already in place for January. They announced a delay on that till July, and then they announced it was going to be delayed until sometime in 2023, I think it is now. And as Hussein says, between 50 and 60 firms have either withdrawn their applications or have dropped out or have not been considered acceptable. And I did another LinkedIn post on that. The same week that there was 50, 60 companies dropped out of the UK process, I think the Monetary Authority of Singapore announced that they'd had 91 new applications to go through Singapore. So we may be seeing some regulatory arbitrage going on. The other thing at play with Binance at the moment as well is that Ontario have just announced a few days ago about how Binance couldn't trade in their jurisdiction, and also somewhere else. I think China announced something, and Japan, the Japan FSA, have also announced something. So Binance is kind of either being squeezed or it's being moved around. I think the regulators are thinking a bit like whack-a-mole at the moment. Whichever jurisdiction Binance goes to, the regulator bangs down, and they go from there. So, see, Sam's joined us. So, Sam, have you got any thoughts on this at the moment?
Oh, I do. It does seem to be that there's some kind of international governmental collusion against Binance. I'm not quite sure what Binance has done to irritate international governments. It just seems that there's a dawning revelation. Sorry, international governments seem to want to crack down on crypto assets for some reason. I did see. I've been watching extensively across the blogosphere, doing a lot of reading as per usual. There's a wider crackdown, obviously, on futures, which I assume most people knew about as well. So I don't know why this is coming. I think there's a lot of trepidation about 2022. Maybe filtering the background of some of these economists and governments know things that we just don't. So I'm concerned about 2022, very concerned, and I'm watching different commentators. So I don't think I've answered your question there. Sorry.
I think you're right there. Actually, there's many things at play. I think there's an element of Binance being directly challenged by a number of regulators globally, and I think there's a general crypto pushback by regulators, and that's where I was sharing the concern earlier on today, that my worry about the Binance thing is that the next thing is that the FCA is going to write a Dear CEO letter to the banks in the UK, at least, and say, please be mindful of what you need to do for money laundering, due diligence, sanctions, blah, 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 with unregulated crypto companies. And they can leave it as broad as that. And I can just imagine the chief risk officers of the big banks going, oh, okay, this sounds like it's going to be a load of aggro. Let's just find out the bank accounts they're using and we'll blacklist them. And that will just make it harder again. I don't know if any of you have experienced recently trying to link up your bank accounts with any exchanges, but you're either getting it rejected or you're getting the phone call to say we're seeing suspicious activity. Hussein, I see you put your hand up on that. Is that something you've been saying?
Yeah, I mean, this is happening, and when you look at the group, there's definitely an uptick in the number of people that have had transactions frozen or otherwise delayed. It happened to me when I was trying to buy the dip the other day. I mean, it's certainly happening. It's already happening, I think. And look, your average CRO, CLO in any organization is just going to cover their behind. They're not incentivized to think out the box. So it would just be a case of don't deal with these accounts, or put them in the naughty step or whatever you need to do to contain the risk. They're not going to do the best thing by the customer. They're not going to pay any attention to what's going on. They're just going to cover their own behinds.
Yep, I think you're right. It's something bearing in mind as well that people do say, oh, the banks are just anti-crypto. I think a lot of the time, the banks just can't be bothered with crypto because it still represents a pretty small market. but it has quite onerous due diligence, AML checking, KYC checking, and that I can imagine their chief risk officer saying, look, let's do a risk reward on this. Well, what's the reward we get from getting into the crypto space? Well, not a lot really. And what's the risk? Well, it's perceived as a big risk, whereas the reality is we know, the biggest money laundering risk is still a US dollar bill, a suitcase filled with dollar bills. And this is where you take a look at the reports from HSBC, Lloyds, Barclays, all the mainstream banks. Their solution to that is when they see dodgy dealings go on, they simply file a SAR, which is a suspicious activity report, and that's their obligation done. It's like, yeah, we saw this $100 million being flown in from Mexico and this kind of thing. So we've filed a suspicious activity report. That's our due diligence done. Whereas with crypto, it doesn't kind of quite work that. I was going to bring in Fernando. Hey, Fernando.
Yeah, sorry, I've got some really background noise, so bear with me on that. So look, this thing about Binance thing is old news, FCA announced this back in October, and gave a deadline, which was January, So, look, they've probably been talking with Binance because Binance is the biggest one. I'm pretty sure the head of the FCA had been talking with CZ back and forwards, and they come from two different worlds, I mean, I would love to be in a room with both of them, because I mean, it should be completely opposite sides. So, of course, the last one, the biggest one, is the last one that probably is going to fall. Yeah. So, and also, let's not forget this Binance UK continues, So this is the company that they've acquired and did a reverse merger. Yeah.
Yep.
So this is the company that is actually responsible for, things that I don't like in crypto, leverage, futures. I mean, if they ban all of that from crypto, I'll be really, really happy, because I think that's what makes the crypto to be so volatile at the moment. Not at the moment, no, for quite some years already. So it's nothing to see here. It's just headlines, really, it's just headlines. Yeah. Just for your information, Gary, Binance is probably the exchange that does the best in terms of money laundering. So, for example, this year and last year, they've helped countries that are very hard to get these criminals, and Ukraine, for example, they caught big groups laundering hundreds of millions in crypto. They helped Ukrainian police and government to catch these guys, and they are behind bars, I mean, they have an extensive, when people talk about money laundering and Binance not doing enough, they just have to look at the full story. They're doing so much on this. I always keep up with the news, as you know, yeah? So I think it's a bit unfair to Binance that they are not doing enough. They are doing, but it's very hard, And I mean, look at what HSBC has done, helping the cartels to do money laundering as well, And what did the FCA do? Did they took their license? No. So I mean, there's a lot of contradictions here, So I think someone said that I'm worried about March 22. Me too, because that's the deadline the FCA is giving to the exchanges to I mean, at the moment, there's nothing to stop them, you and me, to continue to do your spot trading, yeah? Normal crypto trading. But one wonders what they have been cooking, between now and March 22. And that really worries me,
Yeah, I think maybe it would be interesting to just see a fireside chat with Andrew Bailey from the FCA and CZ from Binance. That would be like that crypto conference in 2017 with Nouriel Roubini and Roger Ver and Tony Vays and that kind of thing. A bit of fascinating type thing. But yeah, and it's interesting as well, you mentioned about the law enforcement, because there was another announcement, I think it was earlier on today, of another major crypto seizure by law enforcement officers. I don't know if it was the UK or something. I just caught it just before I set this up earlier, because I know there was the ransom with the Colonial Pipeline a couple of weeks ago, where the FBI claimed that they'd seized the Bitcoins that were used for the ransom, which was kind of interesting as to what they actually meant by that. But there was some other announcement. I don't know, did anyone else see that?
No,
I saw it.
I told that I didn't see that.
Okay, so homework for today then. I think I saw it on Twitter earlier on.
But the other thing I wanted to add, because I know some of the members in the group, they use Revolut as a circumvent way of, I think it's Duncan or one of the guys, they just have a Revolut account and they use that to link with their Binance account because of the problems with UK bank accounts. Is that something anybody's used to link with their Binance accounts?
There you go, Stephen and Georgina.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Straight away.
And is that pretty easy to set up? Is it?
Yeah, it's just an online bank, isn't it?
Okay.
Yeah, I've used it in the past, but I haven't needed to use it at the moment because HSBC allow me to do transfers into Binance.
Oh, do they?
Binance.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's probably worth
Lloyd's
noting
do as well.
And Lloyds,
yeah, Lloyd seems to blow hot and cold with crypto. I wonder if it depends upon what the air pressure is that day or something as to whether they're for it or against it. But I'd urge a little bit of caution about Revolut. No criticism about the firm, but I have seen some rumblings about concerns about their operation over time, particularly in the crypto domain. I think, are they Estonian registered?
Yeah, I think they are, yeah, because I think when you try and register, there's some sort of Estonian address.
Yeah, so I think they can be great in what they do, and they were one of the movers in the whole crypto space. But it wasn't actually crypto you owned; it was a kind of a variation on it. But I would say just keep your eyes on things in case things change quickly with them as well. So Hussein, go on.
Yeah, full disclosure, right? I was the CTO of Ziglu. I've moved on now, but I remain as an investor in Ziglu. But as a regulated entity with an EMI and 5 MLD, I recommend to everyone, like I use Ziglu to transfer between my bank account, my traditional bank account, to an exchange. I use Ziglu as the intermediary because the bank can't actually stop Ziglu from transfer, right? Unless,
sorry, do you mind explaining that? Because I'm quite new, the intermediary bit.
Yeah, so rather than transferring money from Lloyd's to Binance and back, like you're suggesting, maybe use Revolut.
Yeah, to link it. Yeah,
but Revolut aren't fully regulated, like as Ziglu are in the UK with 5 MLD and EMI.
Okay.
What that means is because of the anti-money laundering transaction monitoring capabilities that Ziglu has deployed and the way the whole system works, a UK bank cannot just arbitrarily stop a transfer. Right, it can't do that, and we've already spoken to a number of the UK banks that did try to do that.
So can you put money into Ziglu and just so you can do it and then transfer it to your Binance account?
Correct. Third-party payments, we're fully regulated for third-party payments, and because of that, I would say it's the best way of not mingling crypto exchange transfers with your UK bank account. If you want to keep that separation, use Ziglu just for that.
Because I had, sorry to interrupt, I had a call from Santander because they froze my account because they saw a few transactions going out, and then I had to go through the whole security thing, and then in the end, when everything was clear, the guy just started warning me, saying, this is unregulated and it's this and this. So they were kind of, I had to release some of the funds, but you can see now a lot of people are getting into crypto and the banks are getting worried.
And don't get me wrong, it's not as if the AML and transaction monitoring that Ziglu deploys is any weaker than any bank.
Okay.
I would say quite the contrary, because we built the system from scratch in mind of this, and we went through the whole regulatory process. One of only 3 firms in the UK that have EMI and 5 MLD licenses. That's Ziglu.
Okay.
And that's because of how stringent the transaction monitoring is. If you just want to keep it separate, and I've really suffered from this. I've got multiple bank accounts across the world.
Yeah.
I get flagged up every time I try to move £5 from one place to another place. There's a lot of friction with all of my payments. This is why I use Ziglu now.
And do they charge Ziglu for like withdrawing or? Okay.
No, it's free to any UK bank under the ES payment system. So it's fast payment scheme.
I'll definitely have a look into that then. Yeah.
Can I ask a question on that?
Go for it.
Sorry, it might seem completely layman, but when you're using this Ziglu, are you then still incurred fees on Binance? You still pay the same fees, right? On any crypto purchase?
So what you're doing is transferring GBP into your Binance account, because that's the only currency that in the UK that Ziglu will transfer to a third party via FPS payment scheme. So if you're going to transfer back from Binance, you pay the Binance fees to any UK entity that you're transferring those funds to. Transfer in is free.
Okay.
But from Binance back to Ziglu or your bank is going to, Binance will charge you whatever that is.
I think there's a £1.50, I think. Yeah.
£1.50 flat fee, isn't it?
And different exchanges charge different fees, right? So, you know, I think I found a few that charge quite a lot, up to 20 or 50 pounds for a transfer, right? So Binance is one of the better ones by a long way, actually, in terms of the fees.
And has anyone used PayPal for this? Because I know some people who've linked their PayPal accounts to do the GBP to Binance or Bitrex or whatever. No one else done that? No? Okay. Georgina, were you going to add something else before when we were talking about this?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest problems we've got with the banks is that there are so many scams out there and scam companies. They haven't been able to actually pinpoint how they can actually identify them. So I think that what you were saying earlier about the banks are going to, they're going to actually say no, because it's as Hussein said, is they're covering their backsides. It's that they're so if they say no to everything, then they're covered when it comes to their customers actually being subjected to these scams. One of the things that one of my other networks, one of the guys in there, he's an experienced trader, he said that one of the challenges with Binance is that there are actually quite a few coins on there that are not viable. They're not trustworthy, genuine products and their projects, and consequently, there's no way that you can differentiate between, whether somebody's actually going for a good coin or whether they're going for a shitty one. So again, the banks are going to err on the side of the caution until they can identify where the boundaries are and where the parameters are with the vast array of different things that you can do with crypto. I think we're always going to hit resistance at every level.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate your tips about Ziglu, Hussein, because that I think it's a brilliant way of actually just creating a buffer between you and the exchanges and your bank, because who's to say that they're not going to shut it down tomorrow and you're stuck mid-transaction because you're in the mid, you've missed the alert.
Good point. I see Matt's coming with a question. Well, he's put his hand up at least.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to mention I have used PayPal to transfer money from Coinbase.
Okay.
And it was instant and there's no issues or anything. So it does work.
Yeah. I think the whole concept of having something in between your bank account and the crypto seems to be the way at the moment. Sheikh, I was curious, what's the perspective from the Emirates at the moment with this kind of stuff?
The thing is that there is a lot of confusion, so they wanted to regulate, and there is a government side, there is a lot of interest we can see. So these days you can see in the newspaper, they're promoting a lot about Bitcoin and a lot about crypto investment. So I think there is a lot of initiatives happening about legalizing or coming up with a certain law from the government side. So we are expecting a couple of good announcements in the coming month.
Because I certainly thought that it was interesting, as was mentioned before, with El Salvador being the first country that's kind of like supporting Bitcoin, they're doing their airdrop. I think there's another Central American country that's announced something, maybe it's Honduras or something in that region where they seem to be going into it.
Paraguay.
Okay, so down the coast. It's fascinating. I don't know Central America at all. And I actually had to get a map to see where El Salvador was. And then, oh, right, there's a lot of other interesting countries there that might suddenly get visited from the friends from the north. So that'll be an interesting space. Well, I was interested that the next region I thought where this was going to gather pace, what was the Middle East and the Emirates, and particularly with Dubai getting really interested in this space as well. So, okay, that was good to know. Matt, go for it. I'm loving this. Matt actually knows how to use the hands up thing, or is that you put your hand up and you've forgotten to take it down?
Oh, I didn't know I had to take it back down. How do I take it down? Hold on. There we go.
And then we've got Sam's put his hand up now. See, everyone, it's great, isn't it? It's like training children. Once you get a couple of them to put their hands up, they're like sheep. They're great. Go for it, Sam.
You know, I'm actually a teacher, so anyway, but I should be able to. But yeah, I did see about Venezuela getting mentioned today and Tanzania. So definitely, obviously, these developing countries. But I think as a point of political interest, you know, my dad's wife is Colombia and travelled to the region. So there's quite a lot of anti-American sentiment there. So any deviation from what they see as kind of like dollar imperialism would be seen to be a move forward. So what we could see is like this beginning like of a domino effect, especially in the Latin American countries. And you think Venezuela's like it's had a pretty Marxist regime, very leftist regime, but then cryptocurrency is incredibly capitalist, isn't it? You know, so it's quite an interesting fusion. But yeah, in the name of kind of independent finance, away from these like huge centralized financial institutions. So it's quite an interesting political dynamic that is fueling cryptocurrency adoption. So I just thought that'd be quite interesting.
I think you're right, and that's where I just finished reading a book, Confessions of an Economic Hitman, and that talks about how America influences the rest of the world by moving in and helping out with infrastructure projects and loans, and it's all about expanding the use of the dollar and that kind of thing. So I think you're right that there is this concern that all of a sudden the dollar may cease to be a world reserve currency. And if you look at the work that the Bank of International Settlements is doing at the moment, which is the bank which is I think it's made up of 60 central banks. And they're looking at central bank digital currencies and that kind of thing at the moment as well. And that could actually ultimately lead to the dollar no longer being a reserve currency or being the lead currency. So I imagine they're quite concerned.
It's called, isn't it?
So what's
Fed
that?
Coin. The
Fed coin. Yeah.
That's what it's called.
Yeah. But this is where, again, you go down this rabbit warren once you get into crypto of suddenly realizing that central banks like the Federal Reserve are not necessarily what you think they are, and they're not actually government owned, they're actually private. And usually when you say that, people go, what? It's like, go and find out who owns the Federal Reserve, because it's not the US government. So that's interesting. I see we've got another one, someone else joined us. It says Gobin Chana, or Gobin Chana. And take yourself on mute and say hi.
Oh, hello.
Hey.
Hello.
Another fresh face. I thought I'd welcome you in so you didn't feel left out.
I'm on the Binance affiliate group of the UK, and they had a message around this afternoon that so Binance is coming up with a PR regarding the FCA statement. So they will get back with a PR. So let's see what it is.
Yeah. And you're based in the UK, are you?
Yeah, I'm based in the UK.
Okay, cool. Because I think at the moment, the great thing about the crypto world is that there are so many groups that you can find nuggets of information, and that's why I like to run groups like this kind of thing. It kind of brings it together, so we can get to hear about things. Okay, well, thanks for coming along. Anyway, that's great. I was going to ask, moving on from Binance then, because that's taken up a fair chunk. A lot of activity in the crypto world this week. I see Bitcoin plummeted down to, I think it hit about $29,000-$30,000. Sorry, Stephen, I'm talking in dollars again, and I know you deal in pounds.
Pounds, £21,000.
Yeah, and then it's come back up to, is it 33.4 today? Has anyone else been watching what's going on in this space?
Yeah, I think it was pushed a little bit because I don't know if you guys look at inflows to the exchanges, but there was a lot. I mean, a lot of USDT and USDC inflows to the exchanges in the last few days. We're talking about if all of that starts to buy crypto, we're talking about 43, 45 very quickly, you know, very, very quickly.
So has sorry, Fernando, can you just share with us what you mean by inflows to the exchanges? What does that actually mean?
So that means people that had their USDT, USDC on their wallets and are now bringing it to their online wallets at the exchanges, basically. Yeah? So they're transferring and ready to buy, basically. Yeah? So a lot of people keep them in cold storage. Yeah. So now that's very interesting. There's a lot of people I talk with and say this is the whales playing with people. Yeah. So that people start to buy again, and you know, then people long, and then go again the opposite way. You know. So this is all about liquidations at the moment. You know, but it's reaching a point. There's not much more to liquidate. So I don't think it can go much lower than 30, 29, 30. You know, I might be wrong, but I really doubt it. So it's just there, and I expect some moves very, very soon in the next couple of days. You know, which way it's gonna go, I don't know. But with so much inflow of stable coins, it points to one direction, but it could be a bluff from the whales, you know? So who knows? They are playing big games, these guys, at the moment.
And Sam, didn't you suggest a couple of weeks ago that you were watching something for a particular date as well?
Yeah, well, since Fernando's educated me a bit more, I'm more inclined to. He seems to know a bit more than I do, so I have to. I'm going to listen to what he's saying. So, but like I'm quite big on TA. But I've kind of come to realise that TA is informed by market, like the international markets, and there's so much more going on. It's not just TA. I agree with what he said. I think it's looking very bullish, actually. Cointelegraph has been putting some bullish news. I know not everyone likes Cointelegraph, but you know, they seem to be on the pulse of things, shall we say? I agree. I think the market's going to trend upwards quite quickly. So I'm quite yeah, I hope so as well. But I'm quite hopeful. But you know, if it doesn't, you know, just keep on buying the dips, and you just, you know, the gains you get on those
run
dips.
Out of money.
Yeah, I know. Well, the dollar. That's why I'm dollar cost averaging, or pound. You know, I'm just like I'm putting in X amount every week now. Like, and I'm becoming less worried about getting the timing exactly right. If you just keep on just putting a certain amount every week, so every Friday when the futures contracts of you know, and you get a little dip on a Friday, that's when I'm putting in now. So I'm just going to do it like that.
I think that's what a lot of people are saying, that in the long run, dollar cost averaging is the best way, because you can never time it. You never know when the bottom is or when the high is. So
depends
I guess
if
that's
investing in trading, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If you invest in dollar cost averaging, definitely.
I'm doing the same, just on payday. I just stick a bit in and just don't really look at it on a daily basis.
Yeah, I think something, as I shared with someone the other day, you know, you've got this massive volatility, and someone was talking about, oh, well, what do you think about the current crypto crash? And I said, it's not a crash, it's a correction. You know, you just kind of get used to it. And even when you look at it, fairly extreme volatility at the moment, it's at what, 33 at the moment. At the beginning of the year, it was 30. So it means it's only gained 10% in 6 months. Talking Bitcoin, that's still unbelievable compared to traditional financial type things. But you know, as they always say, you know, things can go up, down, sideways, that kind of thing, which is fair enough. So
my two Satoshis on that one is that we're still in a bull market, and I fully expect it to see most of the coins break their all-time highs by the end of the year. My 2 pence, not financial advice.
Actually, holding on to your Satoshis, because you're still watching the Ripple stuff. What's the latest on that? Can you share with us?
So I haven't been watching it as closely as I should be because of the other work that I've been, that's kind of distracted me a little bit. But recently we've had Ripple going a little bit more aggressive and trying to get, I can't remember the chap's name, I think it's Henman. They're trying to bring one of the ex-executives of the SEC, not, what's the word? It's not subpoena, but it's they're trying to drag them into court to explain their position on decision-making process that they've had on BTC and Ethereum. And it's really rattled the SEC. I mean, to the point that they've accused, on Twitter at least, the XRP army of kind of gunning for their executives and casting aspersions on their character. It's really not looking good. I mean, look, I'm biased as hell, all right? Let me just, again, full disclosure, I'm an XRP holder, have been for a long time. But everything that I'm seeing right now is kind of like the SEC seems to have poked a horn.
I'm sorry for you.
Go ahead.
He said he feels sorry for you. Fernando is on one side of the fence.
I've been through a lot, but I mean, I'm still massively up because I bought the dips. So don't feel that sorry.
Yeah,
for me.
but
there
I'm
are a lot
saying
of people that have lost.
With that on XRP, how do you think it's, because JP Morgan, they're going to be bringing out their own digital currency. So how is that going to now
add it to the list? I mean, JP
work
Morgan,
with XRP, because then there'll be no need for XRP then, right?
well, of course, XRP or Ripple has had about 9 years now of developing a technology and creating a network and getting the liquidity that's required for cross-border payments, which is a 50 trillion market by the last count. So this is, look, if the banks or any individual group of banks want to have a fast settlement mechanism between themselves, hallelujah. I think that's great. If it means it reduces my costs for sending money to Hong Kong or the US, that's great.
Which bank
I just
is
don't
using
think
it?
any of these compete
Sorry,
with
which bank is using it now?
on-demand
Not even
liquidity.
one.
On-demand liquidity is being the biggest corridor is from the US to Mexico. That's the
Now,
largest
there is no
corridor.
bank using XRP at the moment, not even one.
But there are payment services that are using it. Like the biggest corridor that exists today from North America to Latin America is US to USA. That's happening today. That's liquidity today that's being used. And there are other corridors around the world. So yeah, are there banks using it? Well, how about Japan? I mean, we've got a major Japanese bank using it. I mean, come on. This is nonsense to claim that it's not being used by anyone. It's being used every day. It's helping people reduce their cross-border payments charges every day. What the SEC are doing are putting a massive barrier against this, and all it's going to do is pile on the pressure so that on this price, we will see it explode eventually. It's the best technology for cross-border payments. That's just the reality of the situation. And I think the SEC have poked a hornet's nest, and now these chickens are going to come home to roost, to mix as many metaphors as I can in one shot, because I think there's a lot of corruption in the SEC. And this is now being put forward, and Ripple's lawyers are pretty damn good. So, hey, I'm biased on this one. But does XRP have utility? Well, hell yeah, it's proven. It's being used every day for cross-border transactions to simplify them, make them easier and cheaper. It's only the US that has managed to isolate itself fantastically by shooting itself in the foot due to some very incompetent and arguably corrupt regulators.
Steve, you're going to add something on there, I think.
No, going back a little bit. Changing the subject. You touched on
I just want to say something.
Hang on, tell you what, Steve, we'll come back to you in a moment. Let Fernando just close off because he loves Ripple, really.
I love Ripple. Let's not confuse XRP with Ripple.
Yeah,
there are some banks using Ripple. There's no banks using XRP. Yeah. So they've been
on-demand liquidity requires XRP as the bridge currency.
Banks use RippleNet. They don't use XRP.
Correct, not directly, but RippleNet uses XRP. So what's the point?
Okay.
Okay, let's close it off for that one for now. So otherwise, it's going
Gary,
to be
we
like,
need another hour, Gary. I think you should.
it's going to be like Wimbledon, isn't it? It's like 15 love, yeah, 15 all. Sorry, Steve, you wanted to take it back a bit. Go for it.
Yeah, we touched slightly on traditional trading and stuff, moving away from crypto briefly. So I just want to ask if anyone else, because I assume you lot have got shares as well, whether anyone noticed the inverse correlation between cryptocurrency going down and shares going up the last week or two, because my shares have skyrocketed at the same time as cryptocurrencies dropped.
Yeah,
I was just wondering whether that was just me or whether it's a inverse correlation between the two.
I've not been tracking it closely. However, there is a thing called the Sharpe ratio. And the Sharpe ratio is, you'll find like hedge fund managers and that kind of thing use this. And this is where you're looking at a portfolio of assets and you're looking at how diverse their behavior is. And typically you get a very low correlation between crypto and traditional asset classes like commodities, shares, this kind of thing. But I don't know if that has changed recently in any way. But typically you find there's a relatively low correlation between shares and crypto. And it was interesting. I was running a finance officers conference. Actually, it was Dubai or Middle East a few weeks ago, because it doesn't matter anymore because I did it on Zoom. So I don't actually know where it was. And we were talking about the current economic situation relating to COVID and that kind of thing, and how people think that we're in a kind of a depression. Everything's really, really bad at the moment. But if you look at share prices are going up.
Companies going up the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and it's
crypto
like
drops.
Yeah, and it's like I don't get
it's like
this.
They're taking out of crypto to put into shares.
It could be, but you look at
they're panicking.
Yeah, well, you look at shares, the price is going up. You look
I can see you laughing.
Yeah, you look at commodities. You know, gold, silver, oil. Again, they're kind of going up. Oil's been fairly quiet lately, but that did collapse now. So I think it's simply that there is a low correlation. And all that means is that crypto might go down when shares go up, or it might go up when shares go up. It kind of depends. Sam, you were going to add something on this, I think.
Sorry, Joe, I was going to ask a question, actually. Sorry, and it's not related to absolutely anything. Sorry, I'm just being me, and I talk a lot. China. Can we talk about China? Like, you know, they've banned crypto mining. All their crypto miners have flooded out. The hash rate's dramatically dropped, and apparently, VeChain is going to be like the Cardano of China, and it's going to have this multifaceted use, and it's very, very undervalued. So they're going to be using it for education, educational qualifications, and it's got like kind of more expansive blockchain use, which, you know, over the next 10 years, you could be seeing some very, very good returns. So, you know, I just thought, you know, this is a major thing that's happened, you know, so is anyone following what's going on in China? Has anyone looked at VeChain?
I've not.
Isn't China releasing their own digital currency, though, cryptocurrency?
Well, they already have, but it's a digital currency. It's not cryptocurrency. So it's a product called DCEP, which is a central government.
Titan one.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Is it?
I believe, because I know somebody who's providing some of the liquidity in one of the service providers, and they're doing about, I think it's $1 billion a day with it or something. But DCEP, which is, I think, the same as Titan, and it's the digital currency of the Chinese government, is a central bank digital currency. It's not a cryptocurrency. There may be features that are kind of similar. So I believe it's got programmable aspects. As I think Georgina mentioned earlier on, they've done a kind of similar to El Salvador, they've done an airdrop with it in a way with, I think it's Shenzhen or somewhere, where they've given a load out to citizens in China, but they can only spend it on certain things in certain ways. So yeah, we'll see. But China's odd because every so often people will say, oh, China's banned cryptocurrency. It's like, no, China banned it several years ago. It's just occasionally they send out a reminder that it's still banned. And the mining thing, yeah, I think there is some cutting down because Bitcoin in particular is very good at using surplus energy. that they have available anyway. So I'm not so sure. Hussein, go on. You're going to add something on this.
Yeah, so I've read stuff on CNN and dug into it that wholesale mining operations are moving to Kazakhstan and Central Asia, wherever you can find cheap energy, whether it's fossil fuel or hydroelectric, or even to the US. Sorry, there's a helicopter here, probably listening into what I'm saying. But
sorry, that's
the government.
It might be the FCA.
It might be the FCA.
The FDA.
But with respect to VeChain, I think that's one of the kind of, again, biased, I'm a big holder, but that's one of my favorite assets because of what it does, which is provenance on supply chains. And I know they're moving that into some imaginative areas, like using NFTs, and allowing NFTs to be used by some of the more, let's say, higher brand kind of producers of goods that want to exploit NFTs because of the brand is in demand.
Yeah. So, I don't think they market it very well with VeChain because it's got a lot of user cases. I think it's in line with the government of China. They do some stuff with hospitals and counterfeiting and all sorts. So I think it is quite undervalued, I think.
I don't know as well, there was an announcement when the COVID virus kicked in that there was a project using blockchain in China with the Chinese Red Cross to do payments and that kind of thing. I don't know if that was using VeChain, but also there was another one of, I think it was China Life or China Re, or one of the Chinese insurance companies who were using it for processing medical payments on insurance claims, where they were talking about using a blockchain-based solution for that. And I think that was VeChain. So I think you're right. It's something that I need to keep a close eye on, definitely.
Why do you think they're not marketing it well? That's a good insight.
Because they don't need to. If it's Chinese, that they've automatically got access to 1 billion customers, whether those 1 billion people want to be customers or not. It's kind of a mandatory thing. And also that the Chinese payment systems these days are all primarily through WeChat, I believe. And they're embedding DCEP within WeChat. And so that will be just the way that you pay for things, that kind of thing. So VeChain might be a supported approach on the crypto side of things. I don't know. So see where that goes.
There's at the moment there's kind of a big war going on at the moment between the US and China in terms of chains. So Chinese hate Cardano. A lot of organizations in the US are supporting Cardano because it's American led, you know, so it's a chain American. Nobody would trust in the West world a Chinese chain. I mean, go and put your business on a chain that's been developed by the Chinese. Yeah. So no disrespect with Chinese, they do many good things. It's just personally, I know what they even put on chips. Yeah. Because in cybersecurity, I find things that are incredible, you know. So I wouldn't trust any chain that has been kind of cooked in China. That's personally, you know. It doesn't mean it's not good. Yeah. It's just you never know what's in it. Yeah. So there's kind of a big war here. You know, the Chinese hate Cardano. The Americans and a lot of the Europeans don't like very much the Chinese chains. So then you're left with things like Zilliqa and Cosmos and Go Chain that goes in Korea and on other parts of the world. So there's some really cool stuff out there, actually. You know, I particularly like Cosmos and Go Chain, and Go Chain is very fast and
oh, Fernando, I think we've lost you. You've gone away.
I'm really surprised that these two haven't taken off as much as they should. But sorry.
It's okay. You're dropping out a little bit there. Okay, we're going to be closing in a couple of minutes anyway. It's interesting. Steve mentioned about Microsoft being up their share price by over 5%, right. Which
5% in the same month Bitcoin was dropping.
Yeah, but also in the same month that they announced that they were dropping blockchain, because Microsoft Azure had a blockchain platform and they're dropping that from October. And I think that was announced a couple of weeks ago as well. So interesting space. There's all sorts of things going on. As I keep saying to people about these connections and correlations, it's all to do with a bunch of butterflies in the Amazon and whether they're flapping their wings or not as to whether things go on. I'm conscious we've only got a couple of minutes left because I'd like to close this off on the hour. Does anyone have any particular things that they'd like to raise or comment on, or any thoughts or anything? Put your hand up, or don't.
Are we going to keep these to the same time then? Because now
yeah. Given that they seem to be more popular,
yeah.
I'm happy to hold it for at this time for now. As the nights start drawing, as the nights start drawing in, because sadly we're past the summer solstice or winter solstice, depending upon whichever way you want to do it. We'll keep an eye on it. But yeah, it seems that this time is more popular, so we'll stick with this time for now. So that's great. So what I'm going to do now, as no one's got any other additional things to throw in, I'm going to thank everyone for coming along today and joining in. For those who didn't get to see it, obviously it's recorded, so do subscribe to the YouTube channel, that kind of thing. Thanks everyone for contributions today as well. It's been really interesting. Long may that continue, and hopefully see some or all of you next week. So meanwhile, go and wash your hands and have a good one, folks.
See you guys.
Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.